The headlines scream from screens across the globe, capturing the attention of millions. Every major news outlet is abuzz with the latest developments, as the world turns its eyes to the turbulent waters of the South China Sea. This region, a hotbed of geopolitical tension, is once again at the forefront of international discourse. Chinese Coast Guard blasts Philippine vessel with water cannon. This dramatic encounter is not just a clash of ships, but a clash of national interests and pride. The water cannon, a tool of maritime dominance, sends a clear and forceful message across the waves. Manila protests Beijing's aggressive actions near Second Thomas Shoal. The Philippine government, standing firm, voices its discontent through official channels and public demonstrations. In Manila, the air is thick with tension as officials gather to strategize and respond to what they perceive as an encroachment on their sovereignty. Tensions soar as naval fleets converge in disputed waters. The sea becomes a chessboard, with each nation maneuvering its pieces carefully. Warships cut through the waves, their presence a stark reminder of the potential for conflict. The stakes are high, and the world watches with bated breath. Each alert paints a picture of confrontation brewing in the South China Sea. The constant stream of updates keeps the global audience on edge, as analysts and experts weigh in on the implications of each new development. Imagine a small Philippine supply boat, dwarfed by a Chinese Coast Guard ship. This stark contrast in size and power is emblematic of the broader struggle at play. The smaller vessel, though outmatched, represents a nation's resolve to stand its ground. The roar of engines, the blare of horns, one wrong move could ignite a global crisis. The tension is palpable, as every decision made on the bridge could have far-reaching consequences. The crew remains vigilant, aware that they are on the front lines of a potential flashpoint. Filipino sailors and fishermen face off against China's formidable maritime forces. These men, accustomed to the sea's challenges, now find themselves in a standoff that could alter the course of their lives and their nation's future. The spray from water cannons is a forceful message, a physical assertion of sovereignty. It is a demonstration of power, intended to intimidate and assert control over contested waters. For the crews, the danger is immediate. The sound of twisting metal, the shouts, the jet of water tearing at their vessel. The chaos on deck is a testament to the volatility of the situation, as sailors scramble to maintain control and ensure their safety. This is the front line of a 21st century showdown, fought with intimidation and relentless pressure. The tactics employed are as much about psychological warfare as they are about physical dominance, with each side testing the other's resolve. The world watches, knowing the stakes could not be higher. In public places and private homes, people gather around screens, aware that the outcome of this conflict could reshape international relations and redefine power dynamics in the region. Why does a dispute over remote shoals command such global attention? Because the South China Sea is the world's economic superhighway. 1/3 of global shipping, over $3 trillion annually, passes through these waters. The goods in your home likely traveled this route. This corridor links Asia's factories to global markets. Any disruption here would trigger a global crisis: supply shortages, price hikes, economic instability. For Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan, it's a lifeline for energy imports. Freedom of navigation isn't just legal jargon, it's essential for global prosperity. The fight for the South China Sea is a fight to keep the world's economy running. Beneath the waves, the South China Sea hides immense wealth: oil, gas, and fish. Some estimates suggest up to 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. For bordering nations, these resources mean energy security and economic growth. The sea is also a vital fishing ground, feeding millions and sustaining coastal communities. But overfishing and aggressive foreign fleets are depleting stocks, threatening food security. For China, securing these resources is national security. For others, it's economic survival. Each incursion is a direct challenge to sovereignty and livelihoods. Instead of cooperation, the region is locked in a cycle of rivalry, squandering the sea's potential. The South China Sea's strategic value is matched only by its militarization. China has transformed reefs into fortified artificial islands, military bases with runways, harbors, and missile shelters. These outposts extend China's reach, projecting power far from its shores and creating a buffer against rivals. For neighbors, these bases are a constant threat. Philippine boats now operate under the watchful eye of Chinese sensors and weapons. For the US and its allies, these islands challenge freedom of navigation. Every patrol or flyover risks confrontation. These military facts on the water make China's claims harder to reverse. The stakes are higher than ever. One miscalculation could spark a major international incident. The South China Sea has long been a crossroads of trade and culture, but today's disputes are fueled by nationalism, resources, and strategic ambition. China's sweeping nine-line claim, rooted in historic rights, clashes with modern international law and the claims of its neighbors. Tensions have escalated from skirmishes to standoffs, driven by China's military modernization and assertive posture. The peaceful past is fading, replaced by the ominous drums of a potential future war. When faced with the overwhelming might of China in the South China Sea, the Philippines made a bold move. It turned to the power of international law. Rather than matching force with force, Manila sought justice in the courtroom, hoping that legal principles could stand up to military might. In 2013, the Philippines officially challenged China's sweeping nine-line claim at the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague. Manila invoked the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, a treaty both countries had signed, to argue its case on the world stage. The heart of the dispute was simple but profound. The Philippines argued that China's so-called historic rights had no foundation in modern international law. Manila sought clarity and protection for its own exclusive economic zone, waters rich in fish, oil, and gas that millions of Filipinos depend on for their livelihoods. After years of legal arguments and careful deliberation, the tribunal delivered its verdict in 2016. The ruling was clear. China's nine-line claims were incompatible with UNCLOS, and its actions in the South China Sea had violated the Philippines' sovereign rights. For Manila, it was a historic legal victory and a moment of national pride. Yet the celebration was short-lived. China immediately rejected the tribunal's decision, calling it null and void. Beijing refused to participate in the proceedings and dismissed the outcome as illegitimate. On the water, little changed. Chinese ships continued to patrol the disputed areas, and construction on artificial islands pressed on, as if the ruling had never happened. Beijing's actions sent a clear message. Legal decisions alone would not alter the facts on the ground or at sea. This stark contrast between the authority of international law and the reality of power politics became painfully obvious. Legal documents and court decisions clashed with the ongoing military presence and construction in the South China Sea. The Philippines holds a binding international ruling in its favor, but on the water, it is China's Coast Guard and Navy that enforce their will. Diplomatic discussions continue, but the tension remains unresolved. The law has spoken, but without a mechanism for enforcement, its power is limited. The challenge of upholding international law in the face of defiance remains a central dilemma. As the world watches, leaders and diplomats grapple with the consequences. The South China Sea remains a flashpoint where the gap between legal victory and practical reality continues to shape the region's future. With China ignoring the legal ruling, the Philippines turned to radical transparency. Under President Marcos Jr., Manila now documents and publicizes every Chinese action in the West Philippine Sea. Journalists and cameras join patrols, turning confrontations into global media events. High-resolution images of Chinese aggression circulate worldwide, shaping public opinion and rallying international support. The US, Japan, Australia, and others have condemned China's actions, citing Manila's evidence. This strategy builds alliances and puts Beijing on the defensive, but it also raises the risk of escalation. Each incident is now a high-stakes spectacle. The Philippines walks a diplomatic tightrope, betting that global pressure can change China's behavior. China's approach is a masterclass in gray zone tactics, coercion below the threshold of war. Instead of its navy, China uses its Coast Guard and maritime militia to assert control. These forces block, harass, and intimidate rivals, enforcing Beijing's claims without firing a shot. Water cannons, swarming fishing boats, and passive-aggressive occupation are the tools of choice. For the Philippines and others, it's a strategic bind: do nothing and lose ground, or respond and risk escalation. China's shadow war is a slow campaign of intimidation, changing the status quo one reef at a time. The world struggles to counter these tactics. The pressure is relentless, and the stakes keep rising. The South China Sea is more than just a stretch of water. It's a defining test for the global order in the 21st century, where the fundamental question is whether law or might will shape the future. This region, rich in resources and vital for global trade, has become a flashpoint drawing the attention of the world. The Philippines stands at the forefront, championing international law and building alliances to protect its sovereignty and the rights of its people. In contrast, China asserts its power, expanding its presence and rejecting legal rulings that challenge its claims. This clash is not just about territory but about the rules that govern international relations. If Beijing prevails in imposing its will, it sets a dangerous precedent, one where powerful nations can ignore established rules, rewrite boundaries, and coerce their neighbors with impunity. The stakes are high, not just for Southeast Asia, but for the entire world. That's why countries like the United States, Japan, Australia, and others are deeply involved. Their presence and cooperation are about more than just supporting an ally. They're defending the principle of a free and open Indo-Pacific where international law is respected and smaller nations have a voice. These naval patrols and alliances are about more than territory or resources. They represent a commitment to upholding global norms and ensuring that the world's oceans remain open and governed by rules, not by force. The ongoing standoff is a microcosm of the broader US-China rivalry, where every maneuver carries the risk of miscalculation and escalation. The world watches anxiously, aware that a single incident could have far-reaching consequences. Yet, the Philippines offers a model for others. Resist peacefully, build strong alliances, leverage the power of international law, and maintain transparency. Their approach demonstrates that even smaller nations can stand up for their rights and shape the global conversation. Around the globe, people, governments, and institutions are watching closely to see which vision will prevail, a world governed by rules and cooperation, or one dominated by power and intimidation. The answer is being written now, day by day, in the contested waters of the South China Sea, a true test for the 21st century, with implications that will echo far beyond these shores.